Welcome back to the Master of Mirrors. Tonight's reflection is cracked, twisted, and terrifying. If you are ready to face the truth, dim the lights. Let's gaze into the abyss together.
Title: I found a meteorite in the deep woods of northern Maine. I made the mistake of touching it, and now I can hear the trees screaming. Posted by U/Surveyor Elias 99. Date October 14th, 2023. I'm writing this on a satellite connection that keeps dropping in and out, so if the formatting is messed up or this cuts off abruptly, you know why. I don't have much time left before the battery dies or before my fingers stop working. I need to get this down. I need someone to send the hazmat team, or the nukes, probably the nukes. I'm a land surveyor. I won't say which company I work for, but we handle large tracts of uninhabited wilderness, mostly for potential logging contracts or conservation mapping. I've been doing this for 15 years. I know the woods. I know the difference between a bear trail and a deer run. I know the smell of rain before it hits, and I know that when the forest goes quiet, you stop moving. But I didn't know what this was. 3 days ago, I was mapping a sector near the Allagash. Title: I found a meteorite in the deep woods of northern Maine. I made the mistake of touching it, and now I can hear the trees screaming. Posted by U/Surveyor Elias 99. Date October 14th, 2023. I'm writing this on a satellite connection that keeps dropping in and out, so if the formatting is messed up or this cuts off abruptly, you know why. I don't have much time left before the battery dies or before my fingers stop working. I need to get this down. I need someone to send the hazmat team, or the nukes, probably the nukes. I'm a land surveyor. I won't say which company I work for, but we handle large tracts of uninhabited wilderness, mostly for potential logging contracts or conservation mapping. I've been doing this for 15 years. I know the woods. I know the difference between a bear trail and a deer run. I know the smell of rain before it hits, and I know that when the forest goes quiet, you stop moving. But I didn't know what this was. 3 days ago, I was mapping a sector near the Allagash Wilderness. It's rough terrain, dense pine, rocky outcrops, and dead zones where the GPS goes haywire. I was about 6 miles from my truck, planning to camp overnight near a ridge so I could get an early start on the elevation data the next morning. It was around 7 p.m. The sun had dipped below the tree line, and the sky was that bruised purple color you get right before true dark. I was boiling water for coffee on my portable stove when the sky tore open. It wasn't like the movies. There was no whistling sound, no sonic boom, just a sudden, blinding flash of green light that washed out every shadow in the forest. It was so bright I could see the veins in my eyelids. Then came the impact. It didn't sound like an explosion. It sounded like a heavy, wet thud, like someone dropping a melon off a skyscraper, but magnified by 1,000. The ground jumped, literally jumped. My coffee pot rattled off the burner, and I stumbled, catching myself on a hemlock tree. Silence followed. Absolute vacuum-sealed silence. No crickets, no wind, no birds. I should have stayed put. Any rational person would have stayed at camp, waited for morning, and then hiked the hell out of there. But the impact site was close, maybe 400 yards over the ridge, and there was this pull. It wasn't physical exactly. It was curiosity, sure, but it felt sharper, like a fishhook in the center of my chest, tugging me forward. I grabbed my flashlight, my sidearm, a .45, standard for bears or moose, and my radio, and I headed up the ridge. The smell hit me first. It didn't smell like smoke or burning wood. It smelled like ozone and cinnamon. It was a sweet, metallic tang that coated the back of my throat immediately. I could taste it more than I could smell it. When I crested the ridge, I saw the crater. It was smaller than I expected, maybe 20 feet across, plowed into the side of a limestone embankment. The dirt around it wasn't charred. It was bleached. The dirt, the moss, the roots, they were all a stark bone white, as if the color had been sucked right out of them in a split second. And in the center sat the object. It wasn't a rock. Meteorites are usually jagged, pitted things, chunks of iron and nickel. This thing was smooth. It was roughly the size of a sedan, shaped like a teardrop, and it was black. Not just black, it absorbed the light from my flashlight. The light didn't reflect off it, it just terminated against the surface. I slid down the embankment, my boots crunching on the bleached frozen grass. The air temperature dropped the closer I got. By the time I was 10 feet away, I could see my breath. The object was humming. It was a low frequency, something you feel in your teeth more than you hear. Thrum, 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 like a massive sleeping heart. I walked a circle around it. There were no seams, no rivets, no windows, just this seamless, light-eating void. Then I saw the crack. On the side facing the limestone cliff, there was a hairline fracture in the hull. A faint, pulsating green light was leaking out, matching the rhythm of the thrumming sound. It was hypnotic. The light looked liquid, viscous. I reached out. I know, I'm an idiot. I've read the sci-fi books, I've seen the movies, but in that moment, my brain wasn't working right. The logic center had shut down, replaced by a primitive monkey brain need to touch. My gloved hand brushed the surface. The glove disintegrated. It didn't burn, it just fell apart, turning into gray dust that drifted to the ground. My bare fingertips made contact with the cold, slick surface of the object. A shock wave went through me. Not electricity, it felt like ice water being injected directly into my marrow. My vision went white. I heard a sound inside my skull like a dial-up modem screaming, layered over the sound of wind chimes. I jerked my hand back and fell on my ass. My hand was glowing. Faintly, under the skin, the veins in my right arm were tracing patterns in a soft, bioluminescent green. I stared at it, horrified, rubbing it against my jacket, trying to wipe it off. It wasn't on the surface. It was in me. The humming from the object got louder. The crack widened. Panic finally overrode the trance. I scrambled back up the embankment, slipping on the white grass, and ran. I didn't stop running until I crashed back into my campsite, collapsing next to my upturned stove. I spent the night huddled in my tent with my gun pointed at the zipper, shivering violently. The veins in my right arm stopped glowing after an hour, but they turned a dark, bruised purple. My arm felt heavy, like it was asleep but painful, a deep aching throb in the bone. I must have passed out around 4 a.m. because I woke up to the sun hitting the tent canvas. For a second, I thought it was a nightmare. Then I looked at my hand. My fingers were wrong. They were longer, just slightly, maybe a quarter of an inch, and the nail plates were gone. In their place was smooth gray skin, hard as a callus. I packed up camp in a frenzy. I left the tent, the stove, everything heavy. I just took my water, my keys, and the radio. I needed to get to the truck. The hawkback should have taken 3 hours. I've been walking for 2 days.
Update. October 14, 11:30 p.m. I'm currently holed up in an old hunter's blind about, maybe 4 miles from where I started. I can't trust my GPS. The screen just shows static whenever I turn it on. The woods have changed. It started subtly. About an hour into my hike back, I noticed the geometry of the trees was off. Pines don't grow in perfect spirals. They don't twist around each other like braided. Update. October 14, 11:30 p.m. I'm currently holed up in an old hunter's blind about, maybe 4 miles from where I started. I can't trust my GPS. The screen just shows static whenever I turn it on. The woods have changed. It started subtly. About an hour into my hike back, I noticed the geometry of the trees was off. Pines don't grow in perfect spirals. They don't twist around each other like braided rope. but here they do. I saw a birch tree that had bent over and grown back into the ground, forming a perfect arch. And then I saw the squirrel. It was sitting on a stump, watching me. I didn't think much of it until I got closer. It didn't run. It just sat there, vibrating. When I passed it, I saw why. The squirrel was fused to the wood. Its paws had melted into the bark. The fur on its back had turned to moss. Its eyes were gone, replaced by two small black pebbles. But it was still breathing. I could see its ribs expanding and contracting, pulling against the wood it was merged with. It made a high-pitched mewling sound, but it couldn't move. I threw up. I dry-heaved until my ribs ached. The vomit was black. I kept moving, but the forest kept getting denser. The undergrowth is aggressive now. Ferns uncoil as I walk past them, reaching for my boots. Vines seem to shift position when I look away. And the silence is gone. The woods are loud now, but not with animal sounds. It's the trees. They're groaning. It sounds like a wooden ship in a storm, a constant creaking and snapping. But underneath that, if you listen closely, it sounds like voices, slowed down, stretched out voices screaming in agony. My arm is worse. I took my jacket off to look at it a few hours ago. The gray, callus-like skin has spread up to my elbow. The elbow joint no longer bends the way it should. It feels like a ball and socket joint now, able to rotate 360 degrees. I tested it. I twisted my forearm all the way around. It didn't hurt. It felt good. It felt right. I checked my reflection in a stagnant pool of water. The water was thick like syrup. My eyes are changing. The pupils are rectangular now, like a goat's, but horizontal. The irises are turning that same sickly green color as the light from the meteorite. I'm hungry, but not for food. I tried to eat an energy bar, and it tasted like ash. I looked at a patch of damp soil near the blind, and my mouth watered. I wanted to put my hands in it. I wanted to root myself. I'm typing this on my phone. I have 12% battery. I found a spot with 1 bar of service. I tried calling 911, but the call wouldn't connect. It just made that dial-up screeching sound I heard in my head when I touched the rock. I think the signal is coming from me now. Update, October 15, 03 a.m. I can't sleep. The hunter's blind is elevated, a wooden box on stilts about 10 feet in the air. It feels safe, but I know it isn't. Something is walking under the blind. It's been pacing back and forth for the last hour. It's heavy, two-legged, but the gait is uneven. Thump, drag, thump, drag. I peeked through the slat in the floorboards. It's a deer, or it was. The antlers have grown uncontrollably. They're a massive, tangled, thorny crown that drags on the ground, weighing the head down. The deer's neck is snapped, I'm sure of it, hanging at a 90-degree angle, but it keeps walking. The body is covered in those black, geometric boils, and it has hands. Protruding from its rib cage, tearing through the fur, are human arms. They look pale and wet. They're grasping at the air, clawing at the wooden stilts of my shelter. I'm sitting here with my .45 pointed at the trapdoor. I checked the magazine. 7 rounds. I looked at my own hand again. The gray skin has reached my shoulder. My fingernails on my left hand, the human one, are falling out. They're loose. I pulled one out with my teeth a few minutes ago. It didn't bleed. There was just a gelatinous green paste underneath. I can hear the meteorite thrumming. I'm miles away, but I can hear it. It's not in the distance anymore. It's in my head. It's broadcasting instructions. Grow, consume, integrate. It's not an invasion. It's a terraforming event, and I'm patient zero.
I think I know why I can't find the truck. I don't think I'm walking in circles. I think the landscape is being rewritten around me. The meteorite is expanding the space, folding the forest over on itself like origami. I am so thirsty.
Update, October 15th, 6:45 a.m. The sun is up. It's not yellow. It's a pale, filtered white, like looking through frosted glass. The sky is full of spores. I can see them floating in the air, glittering diamond dust motes. Every time I breathe, I can feel them taking root in my lungs. I coughed into my hand earlier and hacked up a clump of moss. It was wet and warm. The deer thing is gone, but it left the arms behind. They are fused to the wooden stilts of the blind now. They are growing into the wood, turning the dead lumber back into living trees. The blind is tilting as the stilts start to warp and grow branches. I have to move. I'm going to try to head north, toward the logging road. If I can make it to the gravel, maybe the geometry will hold. Maybe I can flag down a truck. But I have to be honest with myself. I don't think I should leave these woods. If I get out, if I bring this to a town, to a hospital, I can feel the urge to spread. It's a biological imperative. It's screaming in the back of my mind. Find others, share the gift, become the forest. I'm fighting it. God, I'm fighting it, but it's hard. The pain is gone now. I feel strong. I feel connected to everything. I can feel the sap moving in the trees around me. I can sense the heartbeat of a rabbit 300 yards away. I'm taking the gun. If I see the road, if I see a car, I don't know if I'll wave them down or if I'll try to infect them. So here is my plan. I'm going to walk north. If I feel my mind slipping, if I feel the imperative take over, I'm going to use the gun. I'm typing this so there is a record. If you are in northern Maine, near the Allagash, stay out of the woods. If you see a green flash, drive the other way. If you smell cinnamon and ozone, hold your breath. And if you see a man walking down the road and one of his arms is gray and looks like stone, don't stop. Hit him with your car, and don't stop driving. My left hand is typing this. My right hand is resting on the floorboards. My right hand just grew roots. They're digging into the wood. I can't pull it free. I'm stuck. Oh God, the blind is shifting. The walls are closing in. The wood is becoming soft. It's merging with me. I'm not in a shelter anymore. I'm in a cocoon. The signal is so loud. It's beautiful. Integrate. I can see the network now. It's all connected. The fungi, the roots, the deer, the squirrel, the rock. I'm not Elias anymore. I am the bridge. Don't come looking for me. Wait, I hear an engine. I hear a truck engine. It's close, maybe on the logging road. I have to warn them. I have to tell them to run. Or maybe they can help me. Maybe they can take me somewhere populated, somewhere with more biomass. I'm going to cut my arm free. I have a knife. It will take a few minutes. I'll update if I make it to the road. Final edit. I see them. It's a family, a station wagon. They stopped. They are looking at the trees. They look confused. They see me waving. They are rolling down the window. I'm running to them. I just want to touch them. Just one touch. It will be so beautiful.
My grandfather was a master woodsman. He disappeared for 3 days. What came back wasn't him. I'm writing this because I don't know who else to tell. The police closed the case as a medical episode. My mom is in denial, and the doctors are calling it distinct trauma-induced dementia. But I know what I heard on the tape, and I know what I see standing at the edge of the tree line every night since we brought him home. For context, you need to understand one thing about my grandfather, Arthur. He isn't some suburban retiree who bought a walking stick and a North Face jacket. The man is 74 years old, built like a rusted coil of barbed wire, and has lived in the foothills of the Smokies his entire life. He taught me how to track a deer before I could multiply fractions. He knows the woods behind his property better than he knows the back of his own hand. He knows the difference between a fox snapping a twig and a man snapping a twig. That's why none of this makes sense. It started last Tuesday. It was a crisp afternoon, typical for November. Pop said he was going to head up to the ridge, a limestone outcropping about 2 miles into the property, to check the battery on one of his trail cams. He wanted to see if the big buck we'd been tracking was still moving through that corridor. He left the house at 3:30 p.m. He said he'd be back by 5 p.m. for dinner. When 5:30 rolled around, Mom wasn't worried. She probably saw something and sat down to watch, she said, stirring the gravy. By 6:30, the sun had dipped below the mountain, and the blue-black twilight of Appalachia had set in. That's when the knot formed in my stomach. Pop didn't carry a cell phone. He called them leashes, but he never, ever missed a meal. And he never navigated the ridge in the dark if he could help it. The terrain there is treacherous, loose shale and hidden drop-offs. I grabbed my flashlight and his spare rifle, more for comfort than anything else, and told Mom I was going to walk up the trail to meet him. I walked the ATV trail for the first mile. It was quiet, too quiet. Usually at dusk, the woods come alive. Crickets, tree frogs, the rustle of raccoons. But that night, the air felt heavy, like the atmosphere before a thunderstorm, even though the sky was clear. It felt like the trees were holding their breath. I searched until 2 a.m. The sheriff's department arrived at dawn with dogs. The search lasted 3 days. It was a massive operation. Volunteers, drones, K-9 units. I didn't sleep. I spent every hour in those woods screaming his name until my throat bled. The weirdest thing was the dogs. Every time the handlers brought them to that spot on the trail where the footprints ended, the dogs would whimper and lay down. They refused to track. On the morning of the 3rd day, they found him. Or rather, he appeared. A drone operator spotted a figure standing in the middle of a clearing in Sector 4, a dense patch of old-growth forest, about 6 miles north of where he vanished. When the rescue team got to him, he was standing perfectly still. He wasn't leaning against a tree, he wasn't sitting. He was standing, rigid, arms at his sides, staring straight up at the sky with his mouth wide open. When I got to the ambulance, he looked at me, but he didn't see me. His eyes were blown wide, pupils dilated so much his eyes looked entirely black. Pop, I grabbed his hand. It was ice cold. Not just cold, it felt heavy, dense. He slowly turned his head toward me. His voice sounded like grinding stones. The green is too loud.
That was 4 days ago. We brought him home from the hospital yesterday. Physically, aside from severe dehydration and the foot injuries, he's fine. But he isn't Arthur. He sits in his armchair in the living room and stares at the wall. He won't eat unless we put the spoon in his mouth. But the worst part is the mimicry. If I cough, he coughs immediately. Same pitch, same duration. If Mom laughs nervously on the phone, he makes a sound that is technically a laugh, but it comes from the back of his throat without any mirth. It sounds wet. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs to get a glass of water. Pop was standing at the sliding glass door to the backyard. He was naked. He was pressing his face against the glass, flattening his nose and lips, staring out into the dark woods. "Pop?" I whispered. He didn't turn around. He just spoke. "They want the shell back, Caleb." I froze. He knew my name. That was the first time he'd used it. "Who?" I asked. "The trees," he said. "They aren't trees. They're legs." I turned the light on. He flinched violently, like a cockroach exposed to sudden brightness, and scurried, literally scurried, on all fours behind the sofa. It took me and Mom an hour to coax him out. This morning, I remembered the trail cam. When the police gave us his personal effects, they handed me the SD card that was in his pocket. I put the card in my laptop. Most of the files were standard. Then there was a video file. I played the file. The angle is weird. It's looking up from the ground. You can see his boots. You can hear him breathing. He's humming a Johnny Cash song. Then the audio changes. A low-frequency hum starts. Pop-Pop stops humming. "Hello?" he says. From behind the camera, from the direction of the deep woods, a voice answers. "Hello?" It was his voice, identical. Pop-Pop steps back. "Is someone there?" The voice replies. "Is someone there?" "Quit playing games," Pop snaps. "I've got a rifle." "I've got a rifle," the voice mimics. But this time, the tone changes. It's mocking him. Then the camera shakes. Pop-Pop screams, "What in God's name is that?" And the voice replies, but not in his voice anymore. It replies in my voice. "It's just me, Pop. Come here. Look at me." I swear to God, hearing my own voice come out of those speakers made me vomit. It sounded like me, but wrong, hollow. On the video, Pop-Pop starts backing away. "Caleb, you're not supposed to be here." "I hurt my leg, Pop. I'm down in the ravine. Help me. It's so deep." "Stay put. I'm coming," Pop yells. He runs past the camera. The footsteps fade. The video recorded for 10 more minutes. At the 4:12 mark, something steps into the frame. It looked like a tree, but it was made of meat. Rough, gray, bark-like skin that pulsed. It had no face, just a vertical slit that opened to reveal rows of white, needle-like protrusions. It bent down over the camera. I saw an eye, a human eye, blue. It was my grandfather's eye, embedded in the bark of this thing's leg. The thing opened its slit mouth and spoke into the lens. "We have emptied him. He is a good vessel. We will return him to the nest to incubate." I ejected the SD card and smashed it with a hammer. I didn't know what else to do. I flushed the pieces down the toilet.
"I tried to tell Mom. She thinks I'm having a breakdown due to stress. She's upstairs right now, reading a book to him. But I'm sitting here in the kitchen, staring at the baby monitor we set up in the living room. Pop is sitting in his chair. He's looking directly at the camera. He hasn't blinked in 6 minutes. And I can hear him whispering. The monitor audio is cranked up. He's saying, "Caleb, Caleb, open the door. The legs are here. They want to meet you." I looked out the back window a moment ago. The tree line. It's closer than it was yesterday. I measured it. The oak tree that used to be 10 yards from the porch is now 5 yards away. And there are 3 more trees behind it that I don't recognize. They're tall, pale, and they are swaying even though there is no wind. I'm gonna lock the basement door. I'm gonna get the shotgun. If you live near the Blackwood Ridge, stay out of the woods. And if you hear a loved one calling for help from the trees, don't answer. Update 1. I can't talk long. The power just went out. After I posted this, the whispering on the monitor stopped. I thought he had fallen asleep, but then I heard the sliding glass door slide open. I ran to the living room. The door was wide open. The screen was ripped out. Mom was standing there, staring out into the dark. "Mom?" I asked. "Where's Grandpa?" She turned to look at me. Her eyes were wide, dilated, black. "She went to join the legs," she said. Her voice sounded like grinding stones. "He said there is room for one more." She smiled, her mouth opened too wide. I saw the skin at the corners of her lips tear. "I hear them, Caleb. The green is so loud." I'm in the bathroom now. I have the shotgun. I can hear heavy, wet footsteps in the hallway. Not footsteps, more like heavy thuds, like wood hitting the floor. There's a scratching at the door. "Caleb." It's my voice. It's coming from the other side of the door. "Let us in. We have emptied your mother. She is a good vessel." I'm going to shoot whatever comes through this door. If I don't make it, burn the woods. Burn the whole goddamn forest down. End of transmission.
I'm writing this from my living room with all the lights on and a chair wedged under the doorknob. I know how cliché that sounds. God, I know. But I need to get this written down before I convince myself I imagined it. For context, I, 26 female, have been hiking the Cascades since I was big enough to carry my own water bladder. I'm not a tourist who tries to pet the bison. I know the trails, I carry a PLB, personal locator beacon, and I know when to turn back. Yesterday, I decided to hit a trail I won't name, about 3 hours east of Seattle. It's a rigorous 8-miler with a scramble at the top, usually pretty empty on Tuesdays. The ascent was perfect. Cold, crisp air, the smell of pine and damp earth. I didn't see a single soul on the way up. I reached the false summit around 1 p.m. and stopped to eat my sandwich. This specific spot overlooks a deep, U-shaped valley. Across from where I sat, maybe 400 yards away, is a parallel ridgeline. It's rugged, full of loose scree and jagged rock, impassable mostly. That's where I saw the figure. I was chewing a mouthful of turkey when a flash of color caught my eye on that opposite ridge, bright neon orange. I remember thinking, damn, someone is way off trail. I pulled out my monocular, I use it for bird watching, to see if they were stuck or signaling for help. When I focused the lens, my stomach dropped so hard I almost threw up. The person was standing on a needle of rock that shouldn't have been able to support a human's weight. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was their gear. They were wearing a neon orange Arc'teryx shell, black leggings, a gray beanie with a white pom-pom. I looked down at myself. I was wearing a neon orange Arc'teryx shell, black leggings, a gray beanie with a white pom-pom. My first thought was a rational, desperate one. Coincidence. It's popular gear. Just another girl with the same taste. I waved. If they were stuck, I needed to know. Through the monocular, I watched the figure. It didn't wave back. It stood perfectly, unnaturally still. The wind was whipping my hair across my face, tearing at my jacket. But across the valley, the figure's clothes didn't move. The pom-pom in the hat was frozen in place, like a statue. Then the figure moved. It didn't walk. It didn't climb. It glitched. That's the only way I can describe it. 1 second, it was standing on the needle rock. The next frame of reality, it was 50 yards down the slope, closer to the valley floor, closer to me. I lowered the monocular, rubbing my eyes, thinking the altitude was messing with me. When I looked back up with just my naked eyes, the orange spot was gone. I scanned the ridge. Nothing, just gray rock and snow. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Okay, I thought, hypoxia, dehydration. You're tripping. Drink some water and head down. I packed up quickly, feeling exposed. The silence of the mountain, usually my favorite part, suddenly felt heavy, oppressive, like the air pressure had dropped. I started the scramble down. Crunch, crunch, crunch. My boots on the gravel. Crunch, crunch, crunch. An echo. I stopped. The echo stopped. I took one deliberate step. Crunch. From the valley floor to my left, which should have been hundreds of feet below me, came a sound. Not a footstep. It was a voice. It sounded exactly like me. Hello? It wasn't a question shouted by a stranger. It was a recording of me. It was the exact tone and pitch I used when I test my voice on video calls. I froze. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Hello? The voice came again, closer. It was coming from just below the ridgeline I was standing on. I didn't look. I didn't wait. I ran. I know the #1 rule of hiking is don't run, especially on a descent, but primal terror takes over. I practically skied down the scree, ankle-breaking speed, sliding and scrambling.
Behind me, I heard the sound of sliding rocks, heavy displacement. Something massive was coming up the slope, moving with a speed that shouldn't be possible for anything on two legs. I didn't hear growling. I didn't hear heavy breathing. I heard mimicry. Shit, 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 I heard from behind me. It was my voice. It was repeating what I was whispering to myself as I ran. I hit the timberline and sprinted into the trees. The trail here is full of switchbacks. I cut them, tearing my leggings on briars, sliding through mud. The mimicking stopped, replaced by the sound that was worse, the sound of snapping trees, not twigs, trees, crashing down one after another, getting closer, like a torpedo moving through the forest. I hit the trailhead parking lot 20 minutes later. I've never unlocked a car so fast in my life. I threw myself into the driver's seat and locked the doors. I sat there for a moment, hyperventilating, staring at the dark tree line. Nothing emerged. The woods were dead silent. No birds, no wind. I drove home. I didn't turn on the radio. I checked my rearview mirror every 10 seconds. I got home an hour ago. I live alone. I locked everything. I showered to get the mud off, trying to scrub away the feeling of being watched. I got out of the shower and walked into my bedroom to get dressed. My phone was on the bed. I had left it on the kitchen counter. It was unlocked, open to my Photos app. The most recent photo was taken 10 minutes ago. It's a picture of me, in the shower, taken from the crack in the bathroom door. I'm in the living room now. I have a knife. I called the police, but they said it'll be 20 minutes because I'm in a rural area. I hear something scratching at the living room window. It sounds like a fingernail tapping against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. And now I hear a voice from the other side of the window. Open the door. I'm cold. It's my voice. Edit. The tapping stopped. I see blue lights down the road. Thank God. Edit 2. The police checked the perimeter. They found footprints in the mud under my window. They said they look like hiking boots, size 7. I wear a size 7. They didn't find anyone. They're leaving a patrol car out front for the night, but they can't come inside. I'm looking at the photo on my phone again. The angle. Whoever took it had to be tall, or floating. And there's something else. In the mirror reflection in the photo, the shower curtain is pulled back. But I keep the curtain closed when I shower, always. I don't think I'm alone in here.
The story may be over, but the reflection remains. If you survived this tale, leave a like to ward off the bad luck. To gaze further into the abyss, make sure you subscribe to the Master of Mirrors and ring the bell. You never know what might be standing behind you in the next video. Watch your back.